Hey you guys, I'm back with another video, but this time around I am doing something a little bit different here on my channel, and I'm going to be doing this here and there. I'm actually sitting down with people who inspire me, people who are in my network and community that have really been a great resource for myself, providing anything from wellness to inspiration to business types of conversations and feedback. I'm actually trying to draw from my own community where I live here on the Oregon coast as well to highlight just some really great people doing some really great things. I'm actually filming these interviews during COVID-19 while we are all very likely still sheltering at home. So many of us out there, we've been impacted greatly, whether it's our health, our finances, our businesses, our jobs. There's so much impact out there that so many of us are going through to different degrees. I really felt like during this time, in addition to sharing art and tutorials and inspiration, I also wanted to share another side of me and the things that I'm interested in, and that is truly connecting with people who add just great value to this world. Oftentimes, when I am at a low point or I am feeling confused or anxious or fearful, I turn to people in my network for inspiration or connection, and I want to kind of bring that into some of the stuff that I'm sharing with you guys. I won't be doing tons of these interviews, but it's something that's just kind of been on my mind, on my heart, and I thought it would be a fun thing to put together for those of you wanting to consume something other than art. So today, I'm really happy and excited to share with you this interview that I did via Zoom. We are still all social distancing out here, so a lot of these interviews are going to be via video. But she is somebody who is in my local community. Her name is Jenn Visser. She's a mindset coach and she works in Rapid Transformational Therapy. And I thought it would be really interesting to sit down with her and just pick her brain about during this time, while we are all in a great state of the unknown, what we can be doing to start thinking about our mindset, how we can maybe work through some fear and anxiety with just some practical tips, things we can be thinking about while we're stuck at home, probably pretty worried about what life's gonna look like. And my hope is that this conversation provides value to you guys, and it provides just some ideas and things that maybe moving forward in the next few years you can just take with you. This was a great conversation for me that I had with Jenn because I am somebody who has always struggled with anxiety. So I'm always looking for tricks and practical ways that I can kind of hack my own brain. I know how important mindset is, how important like the daily practice of working on your brain and working on anxiety can be. So even though I put this interview together for you guys with hopefully inspiring you and just providing value, for me this conversation just, I don't know, I went away after talking to Jenn just feeling kind of inspired and more just thoughtful about how I want to go about each and every day during this time. And as we move forward past COVID-19, I want to carry some of these tips that Jenn shares today with me in my whole little toolbox of ways that I cope with my own anxiety or grief or fear or trauma, and how I move forward with those things. So this was such a great interview. It's a long one. It's a little bit over an hour. It's a really informal chat with Jenn where I pick her brain and we talk about some of these things. And if you have the time to watch the whole thing, please do. I feel like it could really add value to your own journey when it comes to mindset and just working through this difficult time that so many of us are trying to figure out. So today I want to welcome you to a new little offering I'll be doing here and there, and that is interviewing some inspiring people out there. So without further ado, we are going to welcome Jenn Visser, and I can't wait to invite you into our conversation. Hi, Jenn. I am so happy to welcome you today and super excited to talk to you. I just want to let everybody out there know I felt like Jenn would be really helpful to talk and pick her brain because she brings so much value to the world. And while we are filming this, it is actually during COVID-19, and there's probably a lot of people out there
who are stuck at home, who are afraid, who are maybe worried about their health or their finances. And I feel like our conversation today could maybe help some people out there just learn some new tools and provide a lot of value to take with you as you move forward, well past COVID-19. So welcome, Jenn. And I'd actually like you to start just by letting us know a little bit about yourself, your background, and what kind of led you to what you're doing now.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I just love sharing what I know to help others and being a part of a community. So thank you for having me here. So what led me here is my own journey of my own healing and then also to help others. I consider myself a healer. And so it started, I've been in the health and wellness field for over 15 years. And it was in this progression of, I used to own a wellness center, I was a massage therapist, but I was doing my own healing, and it was food actually that created the next level of healing for me. And so I became very, I don't want to say obsessed, but very, very into the food, the health, the wellness, and started studying tons of nutrition. I went to Nutrition Therapy Institute, Academy of Culinary Nutrition, and I was just revved up to help people change their lives with food. And then what happened was I would meet with the client and we're like, okay, here's where you're eating. Okay, this is what you want. Okay, here's your list. Let's have you eat this. Let's have you not eat that. And it wouldn't work. Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot more than, the do this, don't do that. And so I was like, all right, I got to go in deeper. So I went to the Institute of Psychology of Eating and learning more about how eating is life and psychology and all of that. And it was amazing, but it still wasn't getting the results for my clients that both they wanted and I wanted. And at the same time, when I was going up these levels of my own health and success, I started sabotaging myself in different ways. And I was like, what's happening? What's going on? So this led me to a deep dive into the mind. So I started studying how the mind works, the beliefs, the thoughts, the processes, and also learning more about the subconscious mind, which is 90% of the driver of our behaviors and our decisions and our activities. And our subconscious mind is mostly created in the formative years when we are, growing up from 0 till around 10. And so these are these outdated beliefs and programs we have in our mind that are causing these outdated patterns that are not lining up with our true desires. So that led me into Rapid Transformational Therapy, which is a hybrid form of hypnosis and other subconscious techniques. And within my own healing, having the work done, I was able to up-level my life in ways that I have never been able. I've always been able to get to here, and then I would self-sabotage back to there because I was like, nope, you're not worth it, or nope, you're not enough, or this success doesn't belong to you, whatever the beliefs were that were holding me back. Yeah. And then working with my clients, both with the coaching, the conscious work, and the subconscious, they were able to break free from those old limiting beliefs and let go of the, symptoms and behaviors that were of patterns for them. So that's kind of a long explanation of how.
That's amazing. Well, I think that ties into the first thing I want to pick your brain about. And I know a little bit just on the surface, but you probably know a lot. But I just want to hear you talk about the kind of the why and how of how mindset can be really transformational, both in a time like right now where there's challenges, and then something you can carry with you moving forward. I know it's been transformational in my own life, but I think it's so important for people to hear how powerful that mindset can be and changes that you make even within that. So
yeah, well, first is why. And the thing of how our minds work is we must stay consistent our behaviors to match our thinking and our beliefs and our words. Basically, our thoughts, our beliefs, and our words are the blueprint of our life. And so we are speaking our life into existence. And if we want different results, you got to look at the thinking. What is it? There's an Albert Einstein quote, and I'm probably going to misquote it, is you can't what is it? It's like, you can't expect a different level of result with the same level of thinking.
Right. I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's close. It's close.
Something along those lines. So if you want to have different results, you want to start looking at your thinking and your beliefs. And how how can mindset be transformational is you want to look at what results do you want in life, right? And so you look at, I want to create this next level of success in my business, or I want to do this. What are my thoughts about it? Why don't I have this? And that can start to pull out your beliefs and your thoughts about why you don't have the results, aka like your limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you can look at your way of thinking and say, okay, now if I want this result, I'm going to have to look at my way of thinking and challenge those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Because in all of our thoughts, only about 10% is literally truth. The circumstance, and the circumstances are usually really boring. It's like the facts, it's the things that could be held in a court of law, right?
Yeah.
But then it's our thoughts about it that creates our reality around the circumstance.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. I know for me, I am definitely somebody who is wired for anxiety and worry. And I feel like I've been on this lifelong journey of untangling what's real and what is not. And I'll do it even if there's not a pandemic. I will create some kind of narrative limiting beliefs based in worry and anxiousness or just overthinking, and I've had to untangle all of that. But it is true when you pull everything back and you go, oh, like really there is about 10% that's real. The rest of this is just in my brain that I'm making up. I'm creating my own story.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it wasn't until I was aware of that, that then I could change it, because it was like I was living as if those things were real, but stepping back and going, wait a second, that never happened. This isn't real. That's a worry. Then I'm like, oh geez, most of my thoughts are completely made just by me. And then I started looking at the stuff that was real and basing it off of, starting to base my decisions and my mindset day in, day out off of the reality versus the narrative I was creating. And, for those of us who are kind of anxious people, and I'm happy to say I have lots of healthier coping mechanisms now, I do feel like it's sometimes a daily practice.
Yes.
It's like yoga or working out, or as an artist, it's like practicing drawing type of thing, where if I let myself get out of practice, I'll fall into that old mindset. And I feel like my brain's being tested right now with COVID-19, where my brain wants to go to creating all these stories, and I have to just go back to my daily practice of like, okay, what's real, what's not, what's in front of me, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It feels hard because
Right.
I'm one of those people that's a fighter. I want to like take care of myself with those thoughts and, figure out how to cope with it. But what would you say for that, like in a time like right now, could people behind the scenes sheltering at home, if they are, like, is there something practical they could be doing to start working on that little muscle in their brain, or what could they do? What does it look like to change that for?
Well, one thing is I wanted to mention, I'm so glad that you called it a practice,
Good.
because it is a practice.
Yeah.
Some people, you know, they want to say like, I'm in a battle with my mind. And it's like, yeah, that's not the reality you want to build. And it is a practice. And just understanding the mind, you know, how our minds have evolved, as we still have our primal mind. It's not like when we were evolving as our species, we just evolved our whole mind.
Right.
So that fight or flight, that looking at for what's wrong, is totally natural.
Mm-hmm.
That's the mind's default way of keeping you safe, is looking at like all the possibilities of what could go wrong.
Yeah.
And so just understanding it's just how the mind works, it's trying to keep you safe, is more of a practice of like being able to not invest the emotions into it, not allow yourself to go into the rabbit hole of it. Is just more of that understanding, oh, that's just my primal mind trying to keep me safe. And I know that it's telling stories, and I hear you, but I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to indulge into the rabbit hole with that. So with the practicality of knowing the mind and knowing that it wants to freak out, part of it is what you said, is just kind of what is worrying, what is like going on, and just writing about it, just brain dumping it, and then pulling out the circumstances, right? So the boring parts, the facts, not the thoughts about the facts. Like, you know, like right now it's COVID-19. So it's COVID-19. You know, let's say so-and-so said this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'd want to put like, people want to put like they were rude in the fact part. It's like, no, that's your thought about what they said.
Yeah.
Just understanding, and then deciding, okay, like this is the story I'm weaving around it. Now, what do I want to tell myself about this? You know, literally deciding. But the other thing is too, is if your mind, you know, is worrying and tends to be more anxious, I've found it very beneficial for clients that have more that anxious mind, is to create a worry time.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it's like, so that way that you can also like keep putting it on, so it's not over, like it's not looming over your mind the entire day, like nagging for your attention. It's like, no, we have worry time from 6 to 6:15, you know, PM, and that's the time that I can get it out, that I can, you know, go down the hole, that I can like worry, or whatever makes sense to you. And that way, like the mind feels relaxed, as it knows, you know, what it can worry about, what it can't.
Right.
Or when it can, it's like, okay, we'll deal with this then.
Right.
The other part is
that down.
the other part is too, is creating a list. Your mind loves lists, and it loves it in black and white. What can you control?
Yeah.
And what can't you control?
Yeah.
Like what's out of your control? Like, you know, how other people react, what they're doing, what they're saying. But what you can control is your media intake, you know, or what you tune into, right? What you deliberately decide to, your conversations, your thoughts, and basically you, and everything outside of you can't control. But it is good to put it in a list so that your mind knows, like, you know what? Yeah, I see that, and it kind of sucks, but it's out of my control. What I can control is this.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And do you feel like small practices like that are truly what can, over time, if you're consistent with them, can truly start changing your mindset? Like, is it just kind of building blocks of, like, if somebody out there were to be starting a practice like that during COVID-19, I would assume, I mean, I know from my own daily practices that you probably can carry it with you through any hard situation. So do you feel like this is something that people could easily be learning right now during a really, really, I mean, it feels like a very scary time for probably even people that don't have anxiety like me. Is this a moment to really start incorporating those types of things with mindset? I mean, it's not just for like pandemics, right? It's something you can carry with you through a lot of experiences and situations. Or
yeah, if you can learn how to how you and your mind can be best friends, you will be able to design your life. You know, this is why I do what I do, is because I get the most fulfillment from people learning how to, one, dream big. I see it in there. Like, conditions within our society and our belief system was for a lot of us taught to be like, oh, be realistic, right? Were you ever told that?
Yeah.
All the freaking time. And it's like, well, so it starts to like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I shouldn't try that. Oh, you know, that's just out there. So to learn how to fall in love with your life, I believe everyone has a purpose here. I believe, and whether that purpose is to grow the most beautiful tulips, is to draw, is to, you know, it's nothing doesn't count. It all counts. And it's all, so when people can learn how to use their mind to be their best friend, to be their cheerleader, to be their support system, to break free, like, yeah, I feel that, but I'm going to do it anyways. They're going to start to step into their own power, to love their life, to create things that, you know, weren't realistic before, and in turn shine their light, which is going to turn on other people's lights, which I believe is like why we're here, right?
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
So that's a really, really big.
It's huge. It's huge, and it's a hard thing to deal with, or see. The first thing that comes into my head is the word fight, and I'm trying to like separate that word from a lot of stuff that I have gone through, because I don't always want to be fighting. I want to kind of welcome it and experience it and learn from it. So it does seem like not fighting those things, but working through them in a healthy way. It does seem like we're given so many messages that we have to, again, like untangle, fight if you're a fighter type of personality, or work through that. When you do get on the other side of that stuff, it does come down to mindset, you know, because oftentimes, I know in my own journey, oftentimes it literally was just about changing my mindset. And when my mindset changed, I had the courage to make the decision, or I put in my letter of resignation so I could start my business. And it all came down to mindset. It wasn't even my bank account or practical things. It was just my brain going, it's just switch it just a little bit, and it can change everything that comes after that. And I really see right now what the world is experiencing as an opportunity to learn something new with our brains and how we move forward through life. You know, I'm watching a lot of people deal with anger right now. Again, that anxiety thing, fear. And it does seem like this opportunity where we can either sit in it, and I know from my own experience, that's like the worst thing, that I don't like sitting in any of those feelings, or we can like somehow start working that, that brain to relearn something or figure out something different to change how we now lead our lives moving forward after this. But I'm wondering, when it comes to coping with or dealing with all those feelings that are like, I guess would have negative stuff attached to them. So fear, anxiety, even anger or resentment. I would assume there's a lot of people feeling some trauma and grief right now as well. And I'm sure it's not responsible to lump all those feelings together, but they are feelings that tend to maybe hold you back or feel really challenging. How would you say, when it comes to what you do and mindset and the brain, like, where would you start? Is it making those lists, or is it that little carving out that daily practice? And is there something kind of overreaching for people out there? If it's either anger or grief, is there something that kind of covers all?
Yes. I know.
Not. Is there?
Absolutely. So
Okay.
the place and really how to deal with all of that is first acknowledge the feelings, right? So you want to be able, and most all of us were not taught how to feel and process emotions. And a lot of our emotions, and especially the negative ones, were disvalidated growing up. And so it just gets bottled up, and we'll either like deflect it by like either snapping or self-harm in some way, or overeating, over drinking, over Netflixing, because we don't know what to do with these feelings.
Right.
And so I like to imagine feelings are like kids with their hands up. They just want to be acknowledged. And so feelings are literally vibrations through the body. And each feeling has a different vibration. And so to tune in with that and not make it wrong will allow you to process it. Because I think what happens is, if we get these feelings of grief or anger or, whatever, we also make it wrong. And it's not like, it's just what we've been taught, because we haven't been taught what to do. Like, be nice, be a good girl, be this, right?
Yeah.
And so it's literally to tune in and to feel that vibration. I literally like to put my hands on my heart, and I like to feel it. And I feel angry, and that's okay. I can love myself through this. I can do this, because every feeling that we've felt it before. The grief, we felt this. And so instead of trying to escape by deflecting or, whatever, it's just about tuning in and getting really curious with it too. Like, what does this vibration feel like? Is it warm? Is it hot? Is it electric? Where is it? What color would it have?
Yeah.
And the more that you tune in, the easier it will process, it will flow through.
Yeah. I love that. And I think sometimes, especially in 21st century living, with so much technology, so much pulling our attention, I think it's so easy to distract ourselves from even self-awareness, like even in a moment of anger or grief, it's almost too easy to numb out or to not like take that minute and just name it or call it what it is. And then we've got a bunch of people walking around just numbing out on, the computer, on Netflix, or just getting mad online, but not taking a minute to wait, why am I mad? Okay. And it seems like it's hard to do that though, because you have to acknowledge what is sitting with you, I guess, before it can be changed or worked through or.
Yeah. And also too, where I suggest, because it is a practice, right? So that like, I want to give people watching this, I want to give them some big concepts, and then I want to get it like, okay, like the list thing, that's some literal, like practical things, but this is like a big concept, and it's sounds simple, but it's very hard, right? But it is a practice. So you want to notice one, what we call in coaching is buffering. So like for me, a feeling that I like to try to escape is boredom, right? And I will grab my phone. That's a trigger, right? This is like my escaping mechanism. So you just want to think about like one thing, one like urge that you get of when you're trying to escape a feeling, and maybe a feeling that's not like so super intense or bad.
Yeah.
So, you know, like boredom is a perfect one. Most people, like, I'll snack, I'll clean, I'll grab my phone, you know, so it's just like noticing your coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, I'm just going to practice, you know, when I grab my phone or when I have the urge to snack, right? Or when I'm not hungry. So like when I have the urge to snack, I'm just going to slow down, like, oh, that's what, you know, the coach said was like, just wait, I want to grab the crackers, like just slow down, tune in. What is it that I'm feeling? Oh, I feel bored.
Yeah. Wow. That's so true. You know, I'll just tell whoever's watching, because I talk a lot in my channels about personal stuff behind the scenes here. I know for me, mine is work. And so but I tend to give myself the excuse that because like my work is my passion, it's okay. But I've found over the last 4 or 5 years, I've gone through some multiple miscarriages that I've had a lot of grief, a lot of trauma. But I've noticed, because I've had to make it like a daily practice of just pausing and identifying stuff, because what I will do is I'll just start working. And it's just, as long as I can stay busy, I won't fall apart. And thankfully, I've done a lot of hard work to work through that. But I know like there's so many, and my people out there know me to be somebody who's really busy. I'm always putting stuff out there. I'm always interacting. But what people don't know behind the scenes is that's my coping mechanism for working through like a good 4 years of lots of grief, lots of trauma. And I know it's not healthy. And I've had to even pull back, which people wouldn't know. I've had to like just stop working and go, stop, Alyssa, stop. This is like, it's like grabbing your phone or anything else. And I think we all probably have to realize, and you can speak to that, but just being aware of what that is.
Yes.
Really can be eye-opening and enlightening. And I have to now, I have a daughter. I don't always want to be that example of coping with something hard by working harder, because that's not, my worth doesn't come from that, you know? And so those things, I so appreciate you saying that, because, you know, from snacking to technology to maybe really, really unhealthy stuff to overworking like I've done, just noticing it can make such an impact, even on working through that thing that you're trying to kind of escape or cope with. So that's some great I'm a practical gal, and that is such great practical advice, because I know I've had to like get really honest with myself about my thing. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Oh, that's right, because I'm sad and I just want to stay busy so I don't feel sad, but just feel sad. Like,
Yeah.
you know? So I appreciate just noticing and finding the connection between your boredom and snacking, or grief and overworking, or whatever the thing is. It's like all the solutions are so simple.
I know. We want to make them so sexy and complicated, but it really is bringing back.
Practical. They really are. Do you think that
But it doesn't mean that it's not. It's easy.
Yes. Do you think as humans, our brains just want to make things complicated? We want to, right? Is that
because we feel so complicated, so everything has to go complicated. And really, you know, the mind, as I've studied it a lot now and deep diving into the mind for these past few years, there is really specific things with the mind that isn't that complicated, you know? And once you understand more about the mind and how it works, then you can unravel the story that you are personalizing it with the primal part of your mind. Your mind doesn't like change because it's what's kept you alive. Your same patterns, your same habits, your same way of thinking.
Yeah.
The way that you think is a pattern. It's a habit.
Yeah.
It's not who you are. You know, our minds take 60% of our caloric energy.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah. And so we want to keep thinking the same thoughts. I can't remember like, I think we only have 10% of the same or different thoughts a day. It's just keep thinking. It's just those highways. Your mind wants to run efficiently.
Yeah.
And so just understanding that, and when you are working for change, you know, that you are going to have some resistance, but you don't need to make it mean anything about you. In fact, I've learned how to welcome that feeling of resistance, like, oh, that just means I'm doing something different. This is good. I want to do this.
Yeah.
And that's that self-talk that's going to give you the results. If you know, when I work with clients first about eating, you know, back when, if they're talking about like, I hate cooking, I don't like this, and I'm like, all right, well, you are going to repeat that pattern in your ways of being, because that is now in your identity. This is who you think you are, someone who hates cooking. Now, if you want to get the results over here, you got to change your thinking. If you think about your future self that has the results that you want, what is she thinking? Is she thinking and, you know, kicking and crying of cooking the whole way? Or is she like, you know, maybe she's thinking, not even thinking about cooking now. She's thinking about her next level of business, or she's thinking about this. So you just want to examine that way of thinking and say, okay, well, this is where my thoughts are. Now, this is something really interesting though. Thoughts and beliefs are different. So beliefs are the super powerhouse. And this is why affirmations don't always work, because they will go against the beliefs that you created mostly in those formative years, or that you've been repeating a long time.
Yeah.
So like, for example, and I might be jumping all over the place, but
No, you're not, you're good.
okay. So for example, when I work with women and body acceptance, confidence, if they've been hating their body for years and years and years, they can't go use like the affirmation, I'm a goddess, I love my body, because the belief is like, no, you don't. So you've got to understand your way of thinking and understand that you might not jump from here to here, that you might need some ladder thoughts is what we call it.
Yeah.
So someone that's been hating their body, saying like, oh, blah, 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 just mean stuff, they can maybe step one step and say, you know what, I have a body. And it sounds funny, but it works. And then it may be like, yeah, I have a body and I'm grateful I have a body.
Yeah.
Until your mind will accept those beliefs, and then work your way up to the ideal. Like, yeah, I feel great in my body. I love myself. I love my body. So it's called ladder steps.
I love that. That is so helpful. And do you think people, like, if someone were watching this, do you think people have, like, could they just do that on their own? Do you feel like that's something they should get someone professional to lead them through? Or is that just a simple, tangible, practical thing they could stop watching this and start creating that for themselves? Or, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. That awareness, like this first step, and always awareness with love and compassion. It never is useful or helpful to beat yourself up, right?
Yeah.
And those, I think, were beliefs that were given to us of, if I just keep beating myself up, I'm going to wake up a better person, right? And that just never happened.
Yeah.
Always coming from lack gets more lack. Always coming from not enough gets more not enoughness. Yeah. Criticism withers, praise boosts. And we all want praise. And the things that when we were little, we were conditioned to get it outside of us and to get our needs met outside of it. But nobody can take care of all of our needs, and nobody can give us exactly what we need. And when we don't get that when we're little, we make it mean something about us. When we're like, well, geez, maybe that means I'm not smart enough, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not funny enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not, fill in the blanks. And those are those outdated, outmodeled beliefs that we carry with it. And this is like the core wounding of humanity.
Yeah.
Everybody has
Yeah.
it,
We all have it in common, right?
Exactly. See, we are all connected. But it's interesting. So just understanding like beliefs, like where the person is at, questioning, like what you're saying when you're asking yourself, like, why am I doing this? First awareness, then like the subconscious mind loves questions from compassion and love, not like, oh my God, what's wrong with me, right? It's not, you don't want to ask that. You want to say, what happened to me to make me feel like this? What happened? Or why am I doing this? What am I trying to get my needs met by? How, and those questions will get more of the revealing answers.
Yeah.
Then you can understand your beliefs, your thought process, and look at it and ask yourself, okay, what's a thought that I can practice that my mind will accept, right? And I like to only practice, like, if I'm doing on the conscious level. When I do hypnotherapy in the subconscious, it's a different ballgame. But when I'm doing the conscious level, practicing 1 to 2 thoughts that are kind of like overall, like wanting to get you where you are, is enough. Like just even saying, like, you know what, like that, I have a body.
Yeah.
Like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not belittling myself. I'm not doing that. I have a body.
Yeah.
And I have a body and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
Or,
based on that, what would you suggest? Okay, so I'll use myself as an example. So I know where my work ethic, being my coping mechanism, comes from failure. And I doing lots of digging and work again, the experiences of miscarriage, where you want something, you're working at a plan and trying to make you grow your family kind of scenario, and it fails. And so I know for me, my work coping mechanisms, so becoming a workaholic to deal with grief, was really based in, I can't fail. At least I'll succeed in something I can control, because that kept failing and it makes me sad, and it feels better to succeed than it does to fail. What do you do in your brain? And this can be with body image to what I've gone through. What do you do if your brain gets tripped up, on all those normal things that almost feel like potholes? Like it's almost like you want to go back into, like, I don't know how to explain it. My brain feels like a street that has these very familiar potholes that I'm like, no, Alyssa, you're not a failure. You have succeeded, and success does not define you. But then I'm going along feeling good, and then I hit in my brain this spot where it almost feels like I have to take 5 steps back and then go over it so I can push through. And what do you say to people, even with body image, if they go, I'm thankful for my body, and then they have a but? Is there something that you can do to push through that? Or is it just as simple as you don't go any farther in that moment for a while? It's just, I have a body. Or for me, I'm not a failure. I'm not a failure, just over and over again. Or how does that look?
Maybe also too, like, instead of saying I'm not a failure, because it's interesting, the word not is not registered in our brain. So our minds work in pictures, right? So like if I'm going to tell you, do not think of a purple horse. Whatever you do not
think of that purple horse.
You got to think of it to not think of it, right?
Yeah.
So you want to use, the mind likes positive, and it likes direct, and it likes, successful. So you would have to, like, your fear of failure, one of your wounding roots, right? So you've done those diggings, and you can look back in that, and you can ask yourself, what led me to the fear of failure? Just with compassion. And you can actually write down these memories that come up. Okay. So that led you into that fear of failure. And when you write down these memories, and we're like an onion, there's always more to unpeel, you can look at that with compassion. And there's a couple different like energetic things. One is you can cross it out and say, that's not me anymore, you know? Or also there's this Hawaiian energetic vibration saying loop that I can never pronounce the name yet. Hopo, no, Pono, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they can Google it, but it's basically saying like, thank you, I love you, I forgive you, and crossing it out, and basically energetically letting yourself forgive yourself, forgiving, you know, others involved in that memory.
Yeah.
So that is a way of self-healing within those memories and those beliefs, without like the hypnosis settings, but also too, like, again, like knowing my trigger is not enough. Like I, you know, especially like smart enough, you know, and so there's always like these wounds. I've done so much healing and all this, but I still get triggered.
Yeah.
And when I get triggered, I know that, and it's okay. I can feel that. And I can even say like, oh, there's that old wound, and that's okay. I love, you know, I can love myself through this, and I don't need to make it mean. And I don't have to like also put my energy into it. I'm aware of it. So I'm like, oh, it's just the old trigger. It's just the old wounding. It's okay, and move forward.
I love that. Yeah, I think so many people, I just know from having primarily a female audience, and perhaps it comes up in male dialogue as well. I just don't work with men as much as women. I just know, and I don't want to make generalizations either, but I just know from the women that I run with and interact with, we can be just so hard on ourselves. And even the process of you know, the ladder thinking, you know, I could see, I know for myself, I get to like the first two, and then I'd hit the second one and go, but like I'd have a bunch of buts in my head initially, until I probably had to do some work in that space or that area. And it is hard to build on those things. It's hard work.
Well, and also too, I mean, literally it's why I do what I do, both with the conscious work, but I mean, subconscious work is, I mean, I believe fully in it, you know, and it really is, I think the easiest way to get out those old beliefs, because when I do what I do with my clients, so you know, and hypnosis is totally natural. It's a natural state that we're in a lot. Like if you think about the autopilot when you're driving, you're like, oh my God, how did I get here? That's why like billboards are so expensive, right? Because it is going in. Your subconscious is aware and it's taking it all in. But like when I do, you know, what I do with also the conscious but the subconscious work, you get to visit your past self of when you created these beliefs about yourself, and you're in what's called your mammalian mind, your emotional mind. And emotion versus logic, which one wins?
Right.
Emotion, hands down.
Yeah,
that's why you can't logic your way out of it. I mean, there's these things that you can do also too, but like in the emotional sense, you can visit your past self and understand like, oh, when I was 3 and mom and dad were fighting, you know, you only had 3 years on the planet. And so your nervous system is trying to make sense of the world. And you don't have the whereabouts to be like, oh, they're stressed about money. They're, you know, that's just them. You're like, wow, well, they must not think I'm enough, or I'm not lovable enough, or, you know, whatever the beliefs are of a 3-year-old that comes to the conclusion with trying to make sense of the world.
Yeah, boy, oh my gosh.
And then you can visit that past self and then also say like, I can understand that, but that's not me anymore. I don't believe that. And of course that 3-year-old is lovable. Of course she's enough. Of course, you know, always have been, always will be. And just knowing like what you said, like, you know, we are born 100% worthy. We are born enough. We're born lovable. That doesn't change. That is fixed, you know? And So just knowing that truth and coming back to that truth in your, emotional mind, but also even to get into your emotional mind of like asking, the subconscious will open up with questioning. So like just questioning from a place of love, finding those beliefs, those thoughts of like, those memories that will come up and like, oh, what did I make it mean about myself? Because the truth is, it's never, no matter how horrible the event is, it's always what we made it mean about us.
Yeah. And that's just, I mean, I know that, but hearing you say that out loud is super powerful, just that alone, because I mean, everything we're talking about, everything you're saying just truly comes down to awareness of who you are and what's going on in your brain. And again, choosing not to squash that or numb that, but being aware of it is almost like the key to like freedom moving forward through any hard situation. Is like, it literally comes down to being aware of what your brain is doing in a moment. I mean, it's wild how simple that is, but how complex it can be practicing it day in, day out through times. And
yeah, it's the first step. And then also like the practice also, like, so if I were going to ask, I always ask people what praise did you crave? When you were a little girl, what did you want to hear? What would make you feel good? If you had a, really encouraging, loving teacher, father, mother, what praise did you want to hear? And you want to give yourself that praise. And so it's a practice, because the mind doesn't know if it's coming from the outside or from the inside. And it's way, way better when it is coming from the inside, because no one can take that away.
Yeah. I love that. Oh, I love that.
So a practical part though.
Yeah.
That's because most people shower every day. So it's a practice.
Yeah.
So practice praising yourself in the shower, right? So like, yeah, you know what? I'm doing a good job. I'm a great person. You know what? I have a big heart. I love so well. And you know what? I smile, I say hi, just practice praising yourself, noticing the good. A practice that I have that is really beneficial for people, and it's been life-changing for me, is at the end of the day, notice, you've got to write down 25 things that you did, like, that you can praise yourself for. And I don't mean like, oh, I created all these webinars or this or that or produced. It's like, you know what? I got out of bed.
Yeah.
I took a shower. I brushed my teeth. I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I made myself some food. Maybe I made someone else some food. I went for a walk. I said hi to my mom. All those little things count.
That's such a good thing. That is, I'm gonna do that tonight.
It's fun.
Because again, for somebody who is a workaholic in love with their work, I put so much worth in work, because everything's all muddled together when you're an entrepreneur, as you know.
Yes.
Like your personal and your professional, and you love it all.
Yeah.
But just the simple act of like snuggling with my daughter or having tea with my husband in the morning and talking about just our garden or something are things that I often don't think are powerful enough or
right?
don't have enough value attached to them, but they really, especially in a time like right now, like they really do. And maybe for me, I know that's what I will probably take out of this time with being kind of more sheltered at home is just like feeling like the value is coming from playing board games, and cooking and brushing my teeth, Whereas before that wouldn't have been good enough for me, because I put value in how many things did I get done today that I love to do. But that is such wonderful, sweet, like what a sweet practice to do for yourself at the end of every day. I love that.
And it trains your mind, because you do have to, just our minds, they are it's just like the gym workout, right? If you wanted to be fit, you work out. And if you stopped working out, your body would go you'd lose the maintenance that you build. So mindset, thought work, belief work, it is also like you need to maintain. And so training your mind of like looking for the good, looking for the positive, feeling enough, like what you said of that overwhelm with business, I totally, and that triggers my not enoughness, that old wounding and trigger. So like for me, what is very beneficial, it's like I have like a mega list, but I like to put my list like on a Post-it, and I like to put 3 things. Okay. And I will be stoked. Like, you know what? If I do number 1, I did good, and 2 and 3, those are bonus. So I don't feel like overwhelmed and that I'm not doing enough. Otherwise, if I have that big old list, I'm going to be like, first off, I'll probably like spin out and like don't know what to do and not really do it. And then
And then if you have that list and maybe only 2 things get crossed off of the big list, then that's a whole other, I know for me, this failing kind of feeling or shame and like, oh, I didn't do any of that list.
Yeah, exactly.
Have that little one of 3. That's a wonderful, it's just kind of going easy on yourself too. I think just easing up and
because also too, when you are easing and you are doing well and you're coming from this place of enoughness, it perpetuates within your way of being. So your work, if it's like for this, if I was like had that big old list in my mind, I feel like our conversation, my mind might be like, right now with this, I'm like, oh wow, this is amazing.
I love that. Okay, there's so many little nuggets in here. I love it so much. As we start to wind down, I would ask, what do you think? Okay, so we've hit on a lot of really practical things. What would you say moving forward for people working through this time? Like, what would make your heart happy that people kind of learn or take with them away from this experience that globally we're all going through? Like, is it shifting your mindset? Is it a daily practice? Or it could be anything, but is there something doing the work that you do that you would love to see people out there in the world just understanding how powerful it can be to learn from this time? What would that takeaway be that people could apply moving forward? If that question makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I get you. Well, and my mind is like, ooh, what from all the
what would it be?
But really, the belief that they are enough, that they're doing enough, that they're being enough, that they are 100% worthy, and to honestly, to give themselves permission to dream, to believe in themselves, to dream if anything was possible, because I believe that it is. Mm-hmm. And I believe that we are all creators, right? So we were meant to dream and create and fulfill into our own desires. Mm-hmm. And it's available to everyone. So just even having that belief of like giving themselves permission to dream can be so therapeutic. But also, if on the practical in where we're at as of now, just to be compassionate with themselves, to practice feeling their emotions and understand their thinking and their thinking, and to work with thoughts that are going to help them to become the next version of themselves as they are growing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think I've just to tag onto that. I've been sharing that with a lot of the people out in my community, the art entrepreneurial community, and just the reframing of it's okay still right now to dream during this time too. It's scary to do it, but if there were ever a time to rebuild in something new, I love that you said that too, that it's just keeping that a part of your day in, day out life. It's okay. It might feel really big and intimidating and scary, but I think even with how unpredictable things are, you got to keep that spirit of creativity and dreaming, and just don't lose it during a time like this. I think it's so powerful because we are all creative thinkers. You know, we need that desperately. We're going to need it now moving forward with maybe the world's going to look different, and it's going to, we need people, you know,
to rebuild.
Yeah. So
yeah. No, it is amazing. Yeah. And to give yourself that permission, and there's no downside to dreaming big.
No, there's not. There is not. There's not, right?
No, there's not. And I see people when I work with them, and like, you know, they first come in and like, I don't know who I am or what I want to do. They want some clarity. And just asking them questions, it just pulls it out of them. And by the end of the session, they're like, like energized. Like that's the energy that we need.
Yeah.
That's what we're meant to be in that energy. And it is available for everyone. And sometimes it is a practice, just giving yourself permission to dream and dream big. I love that sign right there.
Probably backwards, but it does.
Right there, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful advice, Jen. And I guess just to finish up, is there anything you want to promote or share, or tell people where they can find you, anything you have going on during this time? Because if people listen to this and they're like, I need to hear more from Jen, where can they find you and all the things?
Thank you so much. So I'm really active on Instagram, so they can find me on Instagram. It's Jenn, Jenn _Visser, VISSER _, and Facebook, Jennifer Visser. And I created a free group for women. It's called Love, Confidence, and Clarity. So I would love if anyone wanted to join that, to join us there and say hi. If you've met me here with Alyssa, please say hi. Say that you've met us in this time, and I would love to meet anyone that has been following this and the words resonate.
And I will make sure I put all your links below in the video so people can find you really easily. But I want to thank you so much for this conversation. I kind of feel like really inspired today. So thank you for your time and all your wonderful advice and thoughts and experience. I so appreciate it. So
well, thank you so much for having me and doing this. This is such a light, I'm sure. And, you know, it's really positive outreach for people.
Yeah, I sure hope so. Okay. Thanks, Jen.